a month or something like that in that 2-year period. And it would be him asking about, could you go somewhere and have a look at this? We were all friends with 30% customers. And my boss, of course, a guy called Holleran, John Holleran, he was on the board of MCC and Ian was on our board. So there was still that.
I see. Right.
So there was still very much a two-way thing. He owned 24% of the company, and was supplying us 30% of our turnover. So, whilst the links were broken, whilst the official ties were broken, there were links, and the only thing that was official was the pension scheme, and it didn't come over. And that's the last time I saw him.
Which would have been what?
That would have been. My memory is everybody being on holiday other than me, and I am, this is early September 91 when money's coming through, well, starting to come through, should have come through about 6 months earlier. And this is all being handled by our chairman, a guy called Michael Stoddart, who is still around. And Michael was the boss of Electra, and John Holleran, who was on the board of MCC. Those were the two people leading this, and the money didn't come over when it should have done. And then they gave, I think, a 3-month delay, and then another 3-month delay. And then there was a time when we just needed money, because actually we, as directors of BBC, could have been prosecuted because we've not actually delivered and we're not told anybody. So we had a meeting with Bob. The last time I saw Bob would have been, I reckon, about October, late September, early October, when we were actually talking about the last tranche of money coming through. And Jim Brown, who was our finance director, I remember saying, well, we've got to have this, Bob. And Bob saying, and this is my memory, yes, you'll get it, but you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're asking for. In a way that sort of implied that this was very difficult. And we left and the money came through. And then 6 weeks later, he's dead.
And if you look at, I mean, if one looks at the last, say, 18 months of Maxwell's life, yeah, it's essentially, here is a man who believed he could control everything, being overtaken by events beyond his control.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you saw any signs of stress or decline in him.
It's difficult, really, because the answer to that is yes. And bizarre stories that, about, secretaries.
Yeah, oh no, that were no. I mean, one of the things, but essentially, one of the things that happened to him is that he fell hopelessly in love with his secretary. I know that, and then she went off with a man called Nick Davis.
A foreign guy.
Oh yeah, and all that. So, who was an arms dealer, just to kind of throw.
And so, it was the sort of, for me, it was a moral decline, and it was sort of, why the fuck would you bother? Why? And there was something obviously that had gone that he had not taken for granted necessarily, but had been, you could only really get him engaged when you talked back to him about things that you'd done in the part world, where we part world, and this, that, and the other, and other sorts of things. Only get occasionally remember that and talk. But when you were talking, it wasn't the Bob. And part of me said, well, that's because he's not really interested. He's bought Macmillan, he's bought this, he's got all this bloody great thing. Lady Ghislaine is laying in the dock in New York. They're buying the New York Post. What does he want to talk to me about? Bloody knocking out a bit of print in somewhere about. And I came out always thinking that there was something sort of wrong, but I didn't know what that was. And and then you hear this thing about, I can't remember her name now, and all that stuff.
Andrea Davis.
Yeah.
Andrea Martin.
And she was a very attractive young lady, and then Jean was sort of. I still got a good relationship with Jean. She was
pushed aside, of course.
Jean's pushed once, and so to be fair to Jean is chop bang in love with Bob, basically forever and a day. I mean, it's obvious if you've worked with them all together. Now, I'm not making any. I'm not making any insinuations now, and I'm not putting it together. But she's infatuated by him and works 24 hours a day and sacrifices her life basically. And then she's just cast aside, and I'm thinking, this is not right really, because actually Jean's a trooper and she's been brilliant and
he treated Betty appallingly. Betty's book is very, very frank about how she was treated.
Yeah, and that was the other things like that came through, and that isn't the man that I knew. This was not somebody that was. This was somebody capable of playing two tables at casino, at the table, two roulette wheels at the same time. It was somebody that would have a bottle of £500 wine at our dinners and keep it down the other end, and we were all drinking shit. And he would be sort of necking it back, and having a real laugh. When Oxford got promoted, he'd made a bet and he got £250,000 cheque, showing us all that. And there's a guy that was a guy in some ways. He wanted to have a lot of fun and chat and all the rest of it. But then there was something. I just felt that morally, somewhere within him, something had gone very, very, very wrong, and something had gone. It wasn't the business side, because I didn't know that, and I wasn't involved in all that. But I thought that just maybe some people were maybe just not being. Maybe just walked away from him because they didn't like some of the things and everything else. So I think he felt very lonely.
I think he was incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
I think he basically didn't have anyone he could confide in. He alienated his children, basically.
Yeah.
He'd alienated Betty. Joe Haynes told me that there's the Labour Party conferences, the Metropole Hotel in Brighton in late September 91. And Maxwell called Joe Haynes into his suite and said, apropos of nothing, "Are you loyal to me, Joe?" And Joe Haynes, something made Joe Haynes hesitate, and he went, "Well, I'm loyal to the Mirror, Bob." And Maxwell was very insistent, and he said, No. Are you loyal to me personally, Joe? And again, Joe Haynes, something went, if I say yes to this, I don't know why, I just get a feeling I'm going to be in big trouble. So again he said, well, I'm loyal to the Mirror, Bob. And he said, Maxwell was very crestfallen, and that was it. Joe Haynes went away. It was the last time he spoke to him. And he's wondered ever since that there was something really preying on Maxwell's mind that he couldn't talk about. He wanted to talk about, and he couldn't. And the same day, there was a reception of people on some top floor of the Metropole, and Maxwell took Alistair Campbell, who of course was working for the Mirror, took him out onto a little balcony. And according to Alistair Campbell, he said Maxwell was waving about